Hola, mi nombre es Lily Mata Driscoll. Vivo en el 2436 Lenox Circle de Montgomery. Estoy aquí para presentar, después de entrevistar a muchas de nuestras familias hispanohablantes en nuestra comunidad. Algunos no quieren hablar en esta reunión o hablar públicamente por miedo o temor. Otros piensan que su inglés no está bastante desarrollado. Crecí en una casa donde se hablaba español y tuve dificultad en mi ambiente de la escuela donde solamente hablábamos en inglés. Me sentía sola. He visto la discriminación en la escuela. Por mi propia familia, escogí el programa de doble idioma porque quiero que mis hijos puedan aceptar todas las culturas y idiomas y la diversidad en general. Cuando hablé con padres que hablan español, me dicen que el programa de TBE pone a sus hijos en una posición de fracasar. Una madre rescató a su hija de TBE y le puso en el programa de doble idioma porque estaba atrasada académicamente. Tuvo que rescatar a su hija. Otra madre que habla español puso a su hija en la lotería y se le negó la entrada al programa DL y su hija tuvo que entrar en el programa regular. Los próximos 3 hijos pudieron entrar al programa de doble idioma. Le da tanto remordimiento que su hija mayor no se le pudo dar la misma oportunidad que a sus hermanas. Llora cuando me cuenta su historia. Los padres que hablan español saben cuál programa ofrece calidad y oportunidad para nuestros estudiantes. Ese programa es doble idioma. Mis hijos que estaban en doble idioma han hecho la transición a junior high y ahora están en honores altos por su preparación dada por doble idioma. Mi amiga y vecina que llegaron de Ecuador tiene 3 niños en el programa. La mayor vino en primer grado y no hablaba nada de inglés. Ella entró en doble idioma. Esa niña está en Plank Junior High y ha sido reconocida por 2 años por sobresalir académicamente. Estas historias dan crédito que el programa DL de Distrito 308 tiene éxito. Tengo muchas historias que más quisiera compartir con ustedes. Las investigaciones apoyan las historias que me dicen los padres. Como consejo escolar, tienen copias del audito que hace referencia a esta investigación. Doble idioma es mejor que TBE no lo es. Tienen una oportunidad para apoyar a estos padres que hablan español por mantener y extender este programa. Lo harás por nuestros estudiantes que hablan español si quieren una educación de calidad para todos los estudiantes. Hello, my name is Lily Mata Driscoll. I live at 2436 Lenox Circle, Montgomery. I am here to present after interviewing many of our Spanish-speaking parents. I have easily spoken to hundreds of families. Some of them are afraid to speak because they are intimidated by this meeting or by public speaking. Some of them feel their English skills are not up to task. I grew up in a Spanish-speaking home, and I have difficulty in English-speaking setting of school, partially because my parents could not help me.
1 minute.
I was on my own. I felt alone. I have seen the discrimination in schools all too well. From my own family, I choose dual language because I wanted my children to embrace all cultures and languages and diversity in general. I was asked to commit 6 years. Where is the commitment from the district to ensure higher quality of education for all students? As I speak to Spanish-speaking parents, they tell me that TBE is a program
30 seconds.
is setting up their kids for failure. One mother pulled her daughter from TBE and put her in DL because she was behind academically. She rescued her child. Another Spanish-speaking mom put her child in the lottery and was denied entrance to the program, so she had to let her daughter be put in the regular program. The next 3 children made it into the dual language. She is so regretful for her first daughter that she cries when she tells me her story.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Parents Thank you.
Maureen Sanchez. Mrs. Donato.
Good evening. I'm Mrs. Donato at 12924 Grand Prime. As a parent who has a first grader in the dual language program, it is my goal to see that my child and all dual language students have the opportunity to achieve the United States Seal of Biliteracy seal on their diplomas. I want to discuss a topic that seems to have had a bad rap lately, the lottery. The lottery is an underlying topic of the dual language program that, just like other issues in dual language, needs fixing, which is okay. Let's fix the lottery. Tonight I would like to share my own opinion on how to fix the lottery. First issue, majority of incoming kindergarten parents lack the knowledge of the mandatory informational meetings along with the opportunity to sign up for the lottery. Parents hate not being informed. Parents of older students in district wish they had known of the program to have attended meetings. However, unfortunately, by the time these parents find out about the program, it is too late. Missing the opportunity then makes them upset. First solution, make sure all incoming kindergarten parents are aware of 2 spring meetings and lottery sign-up opportunity and highlighted in 2 languages on district website. Be loud and proud of the dual language program. Second issue, lack of incoming kindergarten parents' knowledge of when the lottery itself is held. Parents just want to be able to plan for their kids' future, no matter what the outcome is. I believe auditors even mentioned deadlines are an issue. Second solution, we all managed to get here tonight at 7 o'clock for the Pledge of Allegiance at this meeting. Why? Because it is that important, and so is the deadline date for lottery. Therefore, stick to deadlines, period. Third issue, closed door lottery and what did or did not happen to pick students that get or got into the program. Third solution, we cannot change the past. However, for spring of 2015 and beyond, have a set date, time, and place for 5 to 10 unbiased representatives to be present for a lottery, such as 1 dual language teacher, 1 DPAC rep, 1 school board rep, 1 parent in program, with nothing to gain from the lottery, 1 ELL staff member. I hope you get my point. Be consistent and keep records for the history. Fourth issue, parents, children that did not get in. Fourth solution, you were passed out a copy of a form letter that I received back in May of 2013. That's right, I did not get the congratulations letter. Instead, I got the letter before you because of the lottery, which when I received, I was sad, and honestly, I cried a few tears. But you know what? I went to bed that night sad. My alarm went off in the morning. I got up and saw that the sun still rose from the east, and had breakfast and went to work, even though I got this rejection letter the day before. And yes, life went on. Is this really any different than the school district restricting the amount of players on a basketball team, kids that can be in the variety show? Or how about the 20 kids that can currently get into the Bricks for Kids program? Also passed out to you. I think now you get my point. But if you eliminate dual language on the basis that it is either offered to everyone or no one, please know that it is my position as a parent for the next 10 years that no child should never be denied access for anything. My best example is if any student wants to be in the variety show, there will not be auditions. We will just have a longer show so all students have the opportunity to perform. This is not my preferred method because in the real world, we all deal with yeses, nos, and maybes, even in school. Also remember the amount of lottery spots for students can and should grow. Starting with just 1 kindergarten teacher this spring is true world-class start. Fifth issue, dual language structural and uncompliant issues is pointed out by auditors. Fifth solution, see all the red shirts behind me? I believe their time would better be served helping to assist the dual language program getting structurally sound versus time venting on social media, emailing letters to the board, collecting signatures, working on scripts for public comments, and attending these board meetings. Since it is December, please know that all I wish for this
30
Christmas
seconds.
is that no voting of any kind take place that would dismantle the dual language program. Instead, let's all together do what we can in the new year for the students to support, fix, and grow the dual language program so that every parent that wants their student to receive the seal of biliteracy will be able to achieve it in this district, which cannot be achieved in 4 years of high school language alone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ruby Revelas,
Hello, my name is Ruby Revelis, and I live at 1737 Deer Run Drive in Montgomery. I have 4 children, and they are all proud to be a part of the dual language program. I would like to clarify that your decisions tonight affect our whole community, not just the few hundred students in our program. Last June, we started a petition to save the dual language program. In only 3 weeks, we gathered the names and addresses of 2,108 families, residents of the Oswego 308 School District, who are in favor of saving and expanding the dual language program. 2,108 signatures in only 3 weeks. As members of the Board of Education, you represent the community. If the community supports DL this much, so should you. Your personal opinions should not drive this decision. While gathering signatures, I admit that I did meet a few people who disagreed with us. In that very small minority population who refused to sign the petition, I can summarize their refusals into 3 categories. First, simple prejudice. Second, the cost of the program. In a time where everyone is concerned about expenses and our local taxes, some people were against any program that cost the district more money. Thanks to the auditors, we can confirm that the public that costs per student in the dual language program are actually less than the general population. And yes, that does include busing and transportation costs. This point is now null and void. Third, some people emphatically told me that everyone should just learn English. They felt strongly that our school district should focus only on teaching EL students to speak and communicate English properly. I am happy to let each of them know that the dual language program does just that. The audit confirmed that native Spanish students in the DL program master the English language better and faster than students in all other EL programs offered in our district. They perform better on tests. The educational achievement gap is minimized. This point actually reinforced what Dr. Miner reported to the board on June 7th. She told you that the dual language students outperform other EL students. She also advised that all of the District 308's EL programs are in need of expanding and revision, which is also exactly what the audit stated. In communications with Anna Zuber of the Illinois State Board of Education, she advised our district, while we do not require developmental programs like two-way immersion, we do encourage them, as national research suggests that they have the strongest longitudinal outcomes for English learners, as well as demonstrating positive outcome for English speakers. This Board of Education has now been advised by the Illinois State Board of Education, your administration, auditors, the community, and parents that the dual language program is the best way to meet the goals of your district strategic plan. Out of all those voices, the EL parents' opinion should be considered the most valuable because their children are affected most profoundly. If you give them a choice, they would choose DL hands down. We already have a world languages program in place. Dual language focuses on being bilingual and fully able to converse, not just count to 10 in a variety of languages. The community has spoken through that petition, and it has asked for DL to be supported properly and expanded. Each person who signed that petition was telling you that the needs of every student should be valued and met. Today we ask again that the needs of our EL students be considered and valued
equally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dominic Cerrone.
Hello, I handed out some kind of bullet points. My name is Dominic Cerrone. I live at 202 Woodford Road, Oswego, Illinois. I'm here to discuss some of what the audit says and what it does not say. I read the report and attended the meeting last week. These were some bullet points I took away from the audit. Was ECRA asked to answer the following two questions. What are students in the dual language program learning, and does it cost? That's what they were asked to do. Did the auditors also try to evaluate the cost and performance of the TBE program? No. There's no mention of the cost of the TBE program in the audit report. Additionally, there seems to be no way to determine TBE student performance from the audit report. The students are never grouped as TBE students, only as dual language students or as EL students other than dual language students. This would include all students classified as EL. Students in the TPI program, TBE, those at the night services as well. Did the audit show TBE costs less than dual language? No. Did the audit show TBE performs better than dual language? No. You have two options as a board, TBE or dual language. To help choose, the decision was made to do an audit to find out what is going on with the dual language program. But in the process, a decision was made not to find out about your other choice, TBE. Due to this, you do not have any evidence from the dual language audit to suggest that the alternative to dual language, TBE, costs less or would improve performance. We know virtually nothing about our TBE programming costs or performance based on this audit. You also do not have any analysis about going forward costs. The community expects sound decision making. Next question. Did the auditors say that the dual language program should be eliminated? No. They did not say that at all. Did the auditor comments show dual language costs more than the general education programming? No, it doesn't cost more. They say it costs less than the general education costs, or were negligible at best, or at worst, I should say. Did the auditor caution the district and ask for a thoughtful decision-making process? Very clear on that. Did the audit show that there were major systemic issues with the entire district's ELL program? Yes. Did the audit state that the major issue with all of the district's EL programming is that the current state of affairs perpetuates inequities, lacks consistent quality program design, implementation, and leadership? Yes. Did the audit suggest that dual language as a programming model was at fault for any of these issues? No, they did not. Did the auditor suggest that getting rid of dual language would solve any of these problems? No. Did the auditor that issues related to the lottery process were the fault of dual language as a programming model? They were not. It has nothing to do with dual language as a programming model. Did the audit say that the district's EL program does not have any or does not have instructional resources and supports comparable to mainstream program of instructions, thereby denying EL students a realistic chance of success and perpetuating EL achievement gap? Yes, it did state that. Did the auditor suggest that this has anything to do with dual language as a programming model? No. Did the lead consultant and English learning expert on this audit say the following about dual language? In the dual language program, you have an additive bilingual program, and you're saying to your Spanish-speaking English learners in that program, we value the language and culture that you bring to our schools. She did say that. She also said the following about TBE. The TBE program has a totally different vision and outcome. To these students, the Spanish-speaking English learner students in the TBE program, you're saying, we're going to put you in a subtractive model. We don't value your language and culture. She said that as well. And she never altered her statement. Other important considerations. Does dual language programming put EL grant funds at risk? No. Grant funds for EL students are the same for TBE and dual language for the most part, although grants are now starting to favor programs with greater time spent in the native language.
1 minute.
As stated by the auditors, the findings concerning district's compliance issues and inequity in education would be more likely to cause performance-related grant funding issues. Again, not related specifically to dual language, but to the entire EL program. The most important thing to consider are native Spanish-speaking parents asking to supplant dual language with TBE. No. Never met one. The opposite
30
is
seconds.
what I've always heard. The program does not cost more than the general population costs, and the major stakeholders, families of English learning students, support it and do not wish to see TBE supplant dual language for their children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie Kareem.
Hello, my name is Jamie Kareem and I live at 2777 Savoy Lane. Last week I was here when ECRA discussed their audit results. I listened intently and read through the audit report, and I just want to point out a few of the obvious results that I found in the audit. The biggest discovery seems to be that the entire EL program has many significant deficiencies. These are larger than the dual language program or the TBE program. Deficiencies such as there's no curriculum for any of the EL programs, deficiencies such as a lack of direction from any program director resulting in miscommunication throughout the EL program and throughout the district, no guidelines for staff to follow, resulting in higher than average staff turnover, deficiencies such as not having access to bilingual social workers, bilingual reading specialists, and bilingual speech and language pathologists. When given the right resources, any student of any language will progress further. Take those resources away, and the students and their test scores will suffer. As for the specifics between DL and the TBE program, when you look at the Access test results, the test used to measure English proficiency, you can see the differences. On page 16 of the audit, it shows the dual language students perform better on the English language Access exams than those not in the dual language program. In fact, the audit considered the results to be significantly higher as noted in their blue-colored totals. This means that the dual language is teaching English better and faster to our EL students. Page 15 of the audit shows the differences in teacher qualifications between the programs. 100% of the general ed teachers are considered highly qualified. 100%. However, the TBE program has only 57% of highly qualified teachers, a significant variance. The DL program teachers fall almost exactly in the middle, with 77% considered highly qualified. And when you look at teachers in the TBE program with a master's degree, you'll again see a significant drop compared against dual language and general ed teachers who have almost the same percentage. And of course, the most interesting part of the audit, to me and to many others, was the fact that the average dollar spent for dual language pupil is in fact not more than the average dollar spent for general education pupil in the district. After many discussions over these last months, costs can no longer be a factor in this discussion, period. After reviewing the audit results, I found that the choice was obvious. It appears as though those students in the TBE program would be better served in the dual language program. Since teaching the EL students English is the main responsibility of the district, as it was stated last week by this board, it needs to be done in the most effective manner. EL students are better served in the dual language program. According to page 12 of the audit, there's currently 365 children in dual language and 403 in TBE. If those programs are combined, you've doubled the population in the DL program. Therefore, you've also doubled the number of native English speakers eligible for the program. In addition, remove the lottery for the native Spanish speakers. Not only did the native English speakers have a lottery entrance, but so did the native Spanish speakers. And when those EL students do not get into the DL program, they often deny services altogether. A transition would have to be made for any students currently in the TBE program, but going forward, instead of 2 kindergarten classes, we could possibly see 4 or 5 or even 6. With 4 or 5 classes each year, hopefully we've started to eliminate the need for any lottery, or at least give the majority of those interested a good chance of getting into the program, a system where the majority of those interested achieve access into the program instead of the minority. Parent representatives have shared such a plan with administration and the Board of Ed members last spring. Lastly, this change in the program would then raise the question as to where to house it. By growing the program and attending the additional TBE students, I would hope that the program could be moved into the home schools. First of all, no transportation is needed. Second of all, the children will now go to school with their neighbors and not be an outsider in their neighborhood. And most importantly, families would no longer have their children spread out across the district in different schools. This is what the state recommends, and this is what the parents would like to see as well. We now have the long-awaited audit results.
30 seconds.
We can no longer provide substandard services to our EL community. They are not learning the English language as they should. The audit proved that. Being in compliance with the state standards means following the guidelines laid out by the audit team that you hired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Norma Johnson.
My name is Norma Johnson, and I live at 1983 Grandview Place in Montgomery. I would like to address the board regarding the audit presented last week and the board's response to it. Page 4 of the audit states that students in the dual language program achieve higher growth in English than EL students in other programs. The same page describes the inequities between the TBE program and the dual language program. Students in the TBE program do not have access to the same instructional resources as students in the dual language program. TBE is also housed in different buildings while dual language stays in the same school each year. These inequities show that there is a structural issue that should be resolved by improving TBE and also allowing those students to be registered in dual language when possible, since test results show that dual language is more effective than TBE. Eliminating DL does not solve this problem. The job of administration is to fix the structural problems in order to improve a program that shows EL students are successfully learning English. The audit explains that the dual language program is not available to all Spanish-speaking students who qualify. This is disappointing, considering that dual language is more effective than TBE. The audit explains that some in the community view dual language as an elite program for students rather than a component of the EL program developed to provide mandated bilingual education to Spanish-speaking students. Administration continues this distorted view by listing DL on the district's website under elementary instead of under the EL program. Dual language is also listed separate from TBE and TPI in the English Language Learner Program Structure and Instructional Framework Manual. These are all problems within the structure of EL that can be resolved by administration while keeping dual language as an option for EL students. This would be beneficial to the entire district since the audit shows the effectiveness of DL over TBE. It seems to make the most sense to focus on improving the most effective program, dual language, and allow more students to benefit from it while leaving TBE as an option for students who do not qualify for dual language. Dual language parents understand that this is a program with the primary goal of teaching English to Spanish-speaking students. It is not just a foreign language program for English-speaking students to learn Spanish. If the community does not realize this, it is a problem with leadership, not a problem with the dual language program itself. On the agenda tonight is an action item to decide the future of EL. It is irresponsible of the board to vote on a recommendation at the same meeting it is presented. I am requesting that the board presents its recommendations tonight and table the vote until after taxpayers have an opportunity to respond to the specifics of this recommendation. Last week, Mr. Walsh stated that people need to know where their kids are going to school next year. Delaying a vote until January or even February would still give administration enough time to make necessary changes so that parents will know where their children will attend. The most recent boundary changes were approved by the board on February 27, 2012 for the 2012-2013 school year. This was 2 weeks after the presentation of recommendations by the Boundary Committee. The end of February gave both administration and families enough time to prepare. There is no rush to vote on a recommendation tonight so that families will know what school their children will attend. Changes that occur in the spring will still be enough notice. Last week, what I remember hearing the auditors say more than anything else was that the district needs to think first and then act instead of just reacting. By rushing into a major change in a vital program, we are doing the exact opposite of that advice. I'm anxious to hear the board's proposal tonight regarding the direction of the EL program. Again, I request that the board table a vote until the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
J.C. Reveles.
Hello. 1737 Bureau Drive, Montgomery, Illinois. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. We have spent the last week digesting the information provided by the auditor, and it boils down to this. What is best for our Spanish-speaking EL students? Do we want a bilingual education program in which our Spanish speakers lose their native tongue? Or do we want one that allows these students to keep their Spanish and master English as well? Ladies and gentlemen, the parents of this community are telling you what they want. They want dual language. They feel it is best for their children, and the ELL audit supports it. It clearly states that Spanish speakers in DL master English more quickly than Spanish speakers in traditional TVE programs. Even better, dual language has the added benefit of being cost efficient. You heard this yourself from the auditor just a week ago. In a letter dated June 15 to a dual language parent, Mr. O'Neill stated, and I quote, "If the consultant comes back and tells us we haven't been looking at this all wrong, and if there is a relatively simple and inexpensive solution to the problem, then I will support it. Otherwise, it's time to move on and take care of more important issues affecting far more people." End of quote. Mr. O'Neill, we would like to hold you to your word. We would like for you and your respected colleagues to throw your support behind the dual language. We would like for you to expand the program and make it available to more students, both English and Spanish speaking. Please do what is right for the EL students of this community. Show them that District 308 values their heritage, values diversity, values a well-rounded world-class education that includes the mastery of 2 or more languages. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you.
Monica Ploger.
My name is Monica Ploger. I live at 2776 La Jolla Court, Aurora. I'll provide the following information in English as well, but it's important to speak also to community members that this impacts. Les imploro, compañeros defensores de nuestros hijos, que hagan lo que es mejor para nuestros estudiantes que están aprendiendo inglés. Lo hago esta noche como educadora, una educadora que sabe que el desarrollo del estudiante es parte de mi evaluación, que afecta a mi sueldo y mi trabajo. Yo no esperaría que mi directiva me hiciera cambiar de un modelo que demuestra que los niños aprenden inglés con crecimiento más elevado que lo esperado para enseñar a mis estudiantes con un modelo que una auditoría identificó como de menor rendimiento por una diferencia que es estadísticamente significativa y educativamente relevante. Les imploro como educadora que sabe que el modelo evaluativo me pide agrupar a mis estudiantes de una manera que facilite que mis estudiantes más fuertes apoyen a sus compañeros. Los estudiantes aprendices de inglés son apoyados por sus compañeros de habla inglesa en un programa de doble idioma, pero separados de ellos en un programa de educación bilingüe transicional. Les imploro como educadora que sabe muy bien que no tiene que existir una lotería no transparente que defrauda a muchos para que exista un programa de doble idioma. Todos los estudiantes de habla hispana que califican deben estar en el programa doble idioma. Expándanlo. Les imploro como educadora cuyo trabajo consiste en siempre hacer todo lo posible para ayudar a los niños a alcanzar su potencial. Les imploro que descarten la idea que el doble idioma cuesta más, ya que la auditoría ha demostrado que no es así. Y también les suplico que dejen a un lado cualquier sentimiento negativo hacia los padres que han trabajado mucho más de lo que deberían para hacer lo que es mejor para nuestros estudiantes. Trabajen con esta comunidad fuerte que es parte de su comunidad. I implore you, fellow advocates of our children, to do what is best for our ELL students. I do that tonight as an educator that knows that student growth will be part of my evaluation, affecting my pay and my retention. I would not expect for my leadership to make me switch from a model that demonstrates that children learn English with higher than expected growth to instead teaching my students with the district's alternatives that an audit identified as showing less growth by a difference that is statistically significant and educationally relevant. I implore you as an educator that knows that the new model used to evaluate teachers calls for me to group my students in a way that allows my stronger students to support their peers. ELL students are supported by English-speaking peers in a dual language program, but separated from them in a TBE program. I implore you as an educator who knows that 2 of our 8th graders testing into a class that could earn them college credit is a celebration. Last week, at least one board member portrayed this as showing that our students are not learning Spanish in DL. I would like to explain why simply being fluent in a language is not sufficient to pass an AP exam. The Spanish exam requires students to use the top 3 levels of critical thinking skills at a level that will earn them college credit. This is true of the English test as well, and our high school course catalog does not even allow students to take AP English until they are juniors. Again, I implore you as an educator who knows full well that there does not need to be a non-transparent lottery that disappoints many for a dual language program to exist. All Spanish-speaking students who qualify should be allowed in dual language. Expanding the program allows more to participate, and the lack of transparency is a systemic problem, not a program problem. I implore you as an educator whose job is always to do my best to help children to achieve their potential. This is a time when there is a high demand for bilingual teachers, and they have choices. Please keep them here, teaching children in a way that they are proud of, because it is effective. I implore you to put aside that voters once thought that dual language cost them extra money, because the audit has demonstrated that it does not. I implore you to put aside any negative feelings towards parents who have been working much harder to do what is best for our students than they should have needed to. Work
30
with
seconds.
the strong community that is part of your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Van Cura.
My name is Lori Van Cura, and I live at 2151 Wilson Creek Circle, Aurora, Illinois.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Yes, I have a daughter in the dual language program, but that's not why I'm here speaking in front of you today. As I did last week, I spoke about the FOIA request 1437, initially requested by Stephen Jackson 92614. I spoke to you guys last time that I had spoken to Eric Weiss's office and asked him what the proper procedure was after I read the article in the newspaper. He informed me that I needed to submit a complaint with the superintendent's office, which I did, and I urged my friends to do so. It was inferred last week that the only reason why this is getting any publicity is because I am a dual language parent. That's not the case. The case is that I sent out requests to my friends and people on Facebook who happen to be in the dual language program, some of them, because they are my friends. My daughter's a first grader. Some of those people responded. So I want to take that off the table, that I'm here talking about this matter because I'm a dual language parent. I left the meeting last week when it was time to go to closed session, fully thinking that the procedure that Eric Weiss told me about would in fact take place. He specifically said that the parties involved, Mr. Walsh, Mr. Lightfoot, and Dr. Wendt, would have to recuse themselves from conversation, and the remaining board members would have to take a vote to vote whether they wanted Eric Weiss's office to further audit this problem. Investigate, audit, however you want to put it. I left here thinking that that's the procedure that would take place. When I got home, I went to bed, put my daughter on the school bus the next morning, and it looked at the meeting notes and looked at the video. And to my surprise, after closed session, there was a statement made by the individuals involved saying that there was in fact no wrongdoing. This shocked me because I didn't think that that was the procedure that Eric Weiss had laid out for me. So I again called his office. I called his office and he returned my call later in the afternoon. And he flat out said, Lori, after looking over the board documents in the board meeting, I looked at the video. I saw that no vote was taken, and after closed session, a statement came out of no wrongdoing, and I personally find this peculiar. I then called up Mr. Weiss's office again today and spoke with him this afternoon. I was also guided to look at the precedent setting Nelson versus
Kendall County. And in the final paragraph of Nelson versus Kendall County, it says, that the conclusion, the last paragraph, was the FOIA provides that all persons are entitled to full and complete information regarding the affairs of government and official acts and policies of those who represent them as public officials and public employees, consistent with the terms of this act. The law also explains that such access is necessary to enable the people to fulfill their duties of discussing public issues fully and freely, making informed political judgments, and monitoring government to ensure that it is being conducted in the public interest. Fundamental obligation of government is to operate openly and provide public records as expediently and efficiently as possible in compliance with this act. With elections coming in April, I would like to see these documents if in fact they were just rough drafts of an article, and that is the case. If that is the case, I personally would like to see these drafts released so that I, a voting member of the public, can make an informed decision. And I would think that the political members here who are up for election would like this to be released to remove any speculation that might be hanging over your head with the voting public regarding these documents.
Thank you.
Maureen Sanchez.
Good evening, Board. Thanks for letting me speak. I'm Maureen Sanchez. I live at 615 Spruce Court in Oswego. And I've actually written something tonight so that I don't get off the rails. Thanks for letting me speak. It's important. And I challenge the Board to uphold what I believe to be your motivation to be on the Board, why you ran. I believe that's to provide a quality education for all students in our district. In fact, the stated mission in the mission statement that's on the district's website is the mission of School District 308, a unique partnership of students, staff, families, and community, is to ensure each student develops the capacity to thrive as a successful, contributing citizen by providing exemplary educational experiences in a safe, caring, and responsive learning environment. And I stopped carefully at each. But that's the statement that was developed and is on our school district's website. That's what we put forth. I'll continue. I'm speaking not for my daughter, who is in the program, but for the parents who may not have the courage to speak publicly for the fear of reprisal. We've seen it happen. My daughter will be fine. In fact, I speak fluent Spanish, not because of courses I took in college or in high school. I speak fluent Spanish because I was exposed to it through family friends from the time I was younger than my daughter. I value cultural literacy. I did the research before I applied to have my daughter in this program. I did a lot of research before I put my daughter in this program, and I've taken offense at a lot of the negative comments about this program because it is personally against me and other parents like me who have done the research. If this board's goal is in fact quality education for all kids in the district, what's the motivation to try to get rid of the dual language program? It's clearly not money. That's been demonstrated. It's less expensive. It's clearly not efficacy. It's been shown that dual language is more effective than the TBE program. So what could possibly be the motivation? Are you afraid of the people behind me wearing red shirts? How could we possibly do something that's not recommended by the audit, which is to take ownership of which program and which direction we want? Take ownership of it. Own it. Is it TBE or is it dual language? Hopefully dual language because it's been proven to be more effective. Hopefully to grow and fix it. Right? We've talked about the 2020 World Languages Program. If we can fix this program, we can grow from this program. If we walk away from dual language, are we so arrogant that we believe we can come up with something better for world languages if we can't fix what we already have, which is proven? And Mr. O'Neill, it's great. It's less expensive. It's not going to help raise taxes. In fact, it's drawing people into Oswego, the Spanish community, who wants to come to Oswego so their children can be educated. That actually raises the amount of tax that can come in because they're taxpayers. These people are taxpayers like you and I. And it raises property values because as inventory for homes goes down, we all know the value of homes goes up. I don't see a negative. So I question the board. What is the motivation? Why is there such a negative perception? Is it like some of the conversations that have happened at the Village Hall? Is it a close the door behind you? We're here and we don't want anybody else in?
1 minute.
Do we want to close the door to the little brown people that want to come into our little white community? Is that the problem? Is that why we want to do away with the EL umbrella programs? I question you. What is the motivation? It's not money. It's not efficacy. And if we are charged to do the best for each and every one of our students and for the people that you represent, which include over 2,000 signatures we collected this summer who have said, we want dual language, then what is the motivation?
30 seconds.
And I will leave you with that. Think about what your motivation is and why people have had such a negative opinion of the dual language program.
Thank you. Can I have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
I make a motion to approve all items under consent, including 3.1 minutes from the December 8th, 2014 regular board meeting, open and closed sessions, 3.2 Oswego East and Oswego High Schools outside of the continental United States trips to China and Taiwan on March 27th through April 5th, 2015, Germany in June of 2015, and France, England, Wales, and Ireland on June 8th through the 18th of 2016. And 3.3 Administrator and Teacher Salary and Benefits School Year 2013-14 report.
Second.
I had a little bit of an issue. I just wanted to ask, I looked at the certificate of insurance that was required for the international travel, and it's got a $5 million limit on per incident. And if we had an incident, an unfortunate incident that involved a bus accident where a number of people were injured, that doesn't seem to be, for an individual that might be adequate coverage. For 10, 15, 20 people in a single incident where there could be multiple injuries, I'm not sure that it is, and I'm just throwing that out there to find out if the district has looked at those requirements.
Yes, we have. We're covered in incidents.
$5 million adequate for a busload?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That sounds more like individual coverage.
Well, okay.
That's just...
It's, we are covered for this. This is nothing different from many other schools. And so with our WISIT program, which is one of the best in terms of the programs that they provide to us, and when I say programs, in terms of the coverage, being it from football to travel to regular accidents that happen on a regular basis, there are minimums and expectations that they have to have. And so we have those expectations, they are met, and that's why we actually are able to approve or put on the agenda a trip such as this.
$5 million limit doesn't seem to cover a lot.
Yeah. I understand. Good question. I appreciate that.
Okay. Come on.
Mr. Lightfoot.
Aye.
Mr. O'Neill.
Aye.
Mr. Baumann.
Aye.
Mrs. Paul.
Aye.
Mr. Walsh.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. 4.1 Information. Review of Ethics Policy. 2.105 Complaints.
The Board of Education has discussed the accusation of an ethics violation against the Director of Communications and Bill Walsh and Brent Lightfoot. The Board supports Brian Graves and the two board members and finds no basis for the allegations of an ethics violation against any of them.
I know also like to make a comment on that our board has advised that we have an attorney on staff that advises us as to how to handle these procedures. None of us are lawyers on the board, and we don't have an intimate knowledge of the law regarding these matters, but we were provided the evidence and testimony in this matter, and found that Mr. Graves was simply doing his job, reporting what we would all consider to be just news. When a school board member runs for re-election in a school district, that's news, and that's his job to report on that. We found no evidence that either one of the board members had done anything wrong, and that's how we came to the basis of our conclusion that we found nothing to move on any further. So I know there's people that are concerned with that procedure, but I don't think there's any basis for us to go any further with this claim. So.
Action item 5.1. You read it. This is. Yeah, do you want? No. I think just a statement, the subject.
We're ready to go.
The future of the district EL programming, including the dual language program, with board direction to the superintendent to develop an action plan to bring the district EL program into compliance with state and federal rules and regulations, and to rectify findings related to the 2011 ISBE monitor visit, restructure the EL program to ensure equity and equal educational opportunities for all EL students, and create a structure for the EL program models that is based on sound research and best practices that the district is willing to fully support.
Open up for comments. Dr. Wendt.
Ready to go?
Ready to go.
Well, in the last 30 or 31 months, board, I don't know that I've ever been in a district. I've polled some districts on whether or not they've had 30 or 40 priorities. And out of those 30 or 40 priorities, I can't find any district that has had completed up to 3 or more academic audits. I can remember taking this position and working through that first list. A number of you weren't on the board at that time, but in reaching out to former school board members, we recall the activity where we actually went through and ranked the priorities. I've been asked why EL now and why it wasn't looked at a year or two ago. I received actually the same questions from parents of special education. I received the same questions from parents of gifted and talented students, and the only answer is the right answer. It's the best answer, and that is the board at that time ranked priorities, and we had to pick and choose. There's only so much we could do for resources and time. It's interesting because today we're getting the same questions, and I finished the Ask Dr. Wendt column over the weekend, and I'm getting the same questions about kindergarten programming. When are we going to address boundary lines, and when are we going to address various other topics, and why haven't we addressed those earlier? Well, it's because the district is behind. And I've been saying that for 30 months, and I haven't changed my opinion. I laid that out in a 40-slide PowerPoint that was presented in August of 2012, and the information then and the information now is the same. So I'll begin my comments with EL by saying I regret again, because I have been mostly silent since April. I regret that the EL programming is quite frankly in a condition of brokenness. It's broken. And that's what the audit said. That's what we said in April. And we've paid good money to have auditors or researchers tell us that EL programming needs to be fixed. That should be no surprise. I've never had a program under my leadership with 19 areas that were out of compliance. So I don't know. I've given a lot of thought as your superintendent. I don't read blogs for my health, but I do get things shared with me from time to time, and I have a lot of concerns. But the primary concern I have is that we've had 8-9 years, and it appears to this superintendent that it just got worse. And I wasn't here, but there were people probably in the room and listening that were here 8, 9 years ago. Maybe the vision at that time was different than what it is today. I have to assume that I read an email just recently that compared this to a football program. I have to assume that football program with 7 different head coaches would probably not be making the playoffs very often. And my other concern is that a 5-5 football team will always be better than a 2-8 football team. So I have not compared a program with another program. Quite frankly, my job is not to look at one program, but rather what we're doing for 900 plus EL students and growing. You were, as a board, presented last week for the second time that in 2000, 86% of our students were Caucasian, and we enrolled just over 7,000 students at that time. Today, that number is 60%. So 40% are students of color, and we've broken that down from Hispanic and Black, African American, Latino. And for someone to even hint that we're not reaching out and working with either individual student groups or the students as a mass, and we would just have to agree to disagree. And that's perfectly fine. I've never seen an administrative team. 25 of our top leaders were in a room all morning this morning, and we talk about these topics. I'm very proud of what we've done with Gifted Ed. I would encourage you to tour our elementary schools now. Last year, Gifted Ed kids in the 5th grade received 1 hour with their Gifted Ed teacher a week. And we said that was unacceptable. So when I toured 4 elementary schools this last week, it was great to hear not the teacher, but the students who knew Dr. Wendt because they said they saw my face on the computer, which is good. They said, Dr. Wendt, we're now with our teacher every day. And so I asked my administrative team, is there any hope that those 25 to 30 Gifted Ed students that I saw in class last week, are they the students who help us achieve a 24 composite on the ACT? Are they our 30 and plus ACT scores? I think they are. And you should be very proud. It started with an audit because somebody in the administrative team and someone in our staff said this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And I've said publicly and privately, first meeting I attended was with PACE. It wasn't pretty, but we said we'd fix it. Some got what they wanted, others probably didn't, but it's better today. Special education, same thing. I know there's a lot of motion around withdrawing from the co-op, but I haven't changed my opinion. It is the right thing to do to increase academic achievement in special ed. As long as I'm superintendent, the focus should be there and will be there. I do not regret being the superintendent of an administrative team who's pointed out massive issues with the EL program. I've said before that friendly fire leaves a person just as dead. And whether the scope or the focus is on dual language in some people's opinion or EL in general, we have an obligation to fix it. As the issue is not about, I haven't had any human being contact me stating that they do not believe students should not learn 2 or more languages. It's actually amazing. I've been in the business long enough where that has not always been true. And I didn't go to China because I didn't have anything else to do. We have a need to offer multiple languages. And EL in this district is not Spanish only. It is multiple non-English speaking students all across our district. In fact, if we were to return every EL student to their home school, every school would have multiple EL students and growing. The EL program needs improved, and it will be improved. The Board of Education is here to govern. Administration has a duty to address issues. I apologize to, more importantly, kids, parents who have had services, obviously, over almost a decade. Maybe started out just great, but for whatever reason, we now lack data, we lack resources, and we lack resources all over the district. So let's improve it. The question is how to do that. What is best for all EL students? So to that end, I'd give you my last analogy. We were in front of you with a math curriculum, and you made a change. It was everyday math or some other math program. The Board of Education approves programs. Faculty and administration do not. We implement programs. We'll make recommendations when asked, sometimes even when we're not asked. Read 180 is coming soon. I've said, and I haven't changed my mind, there are more reading programs in the district than playgrounds. It has to change. And it will change. And it will be uncomfortable. The question is what will that look like? You approve textbooks, and we're going to ask you a series of 6 questions, because I don't know, maybe I'm too simple. I think it's fairly simple. I need the answers to 6 questions, and then your superintendent will direct his administrative team to move forward. Are we ready? May I ask my questions? If you don't want to answer, so be it. And you're welcome to have all of the discussion afterwards. I won't leave until you do. Number 1, do you support a lottery system for EL programming? And by the way, these are the questions that will create the playground for creating a new EL program for 900 plus kids. Okay? So, do you support a lottery system for EL programming? Yes or no? No. Okay? There will be no lottery system in the EL program. Of the 900 plus EL students in the district, approximately 60% are native Spanish speakers. Do you support having one program serve our EL students across the district?
Yes. No.
Okay, let's talk about that. Well, we asked the question.
I say yes because I want one complete program that serves all our students.
How can we have
From
a
that,
program that serves such diverse?
just like math, there's different skill levels. So if you have different skill levels, you have a diverse audience. So from that standpoint, I just want one complete program that services all our EL students. Now the makeup underneath that can be whatever it needs to be.
Anyone else?
Well, I think a single cohesive program makes sense to me as well, because I think people incorporate all the good things that EL people are talking about and some of the things that have helped their kids learn better. But it's not fair to me, to the kids that can't get in, to not be exposed to that type of teaching. And why can't we incorporate that for all the kids instead of just the kids that get in the lottery? And that's kind of my point in saying we need a program that incorporates all the good things that DL has brought, but make it available for everybody.
Okay.
That's in our EL program.
Speak to your mic a little bit. Mic closer.
I'm sorry. For our EL programming, I'd like to see all the kids have access to the same type of things that have made
You
some of the
don't
kids
want,
successful.
You don't want one group. Like currently what we have, about a third, if you will, that are placed into a program now through a lottery, but it wouldn't have to be through a lottery. It could be appointment or assignment, or that's the luck of the draw of the school. What I'm hearing you say is that that type of a system is not desired, and that there should be a cohesive single program offered to our 900 plus EL students within what I think I heard Mr. Walsh indicate. I'm not putting words in your mouth. If I am, apologize. That then we address the other issues through other programs as needed, if needed. In other words, if everyday math, and I say everyday math, if Read 180 doesn't cut it, faculty, administration, schools have an opportunity to add value to that program through outside other sources.
Yes, I've really never liked the discussion of eliminating dual language because I don't think that's what we just want to eliminate a program for the sake of eliminating it. But what I don't understand is if that program works, why that teaching methodology can't be applied to the entire 900 kids because
Anyone else on that question?
How are we more inclusive then of our other subgroups or other languages that are spoken?
I don't know if I understand your question, Mr. Bellman. Dr. Minor,
Mr. O'Neill's comments were perfect with a 60% Spanish-speaking population. Can we do that with Tagalog and the other languages that are spoken in the district?
I think we can. I have an opinion on it, but
I'm going to defer to my EL director who can directly answer that question.
Teresa, what do you think?
I think we have a distinction between what state law, Illinois School Code, requires us to do for our different language groups. And because of our concentration of Spanish-speaking students, we're required to provide some sort of transitional bilingual education instruction. And we've been using that word TBE tonight loosely, but to be more accurate, dual language in its different forms is an example of TBE. Late exit, or the other term escapes me, developmental bilingual education is a form of TBE. What our district currently runs for our Spanish speakers is what's considered an early exit model of TBE. The question you're asking addresses students who would be in a transitional program of instruction, and the reason those students fall into that category is because not at any one attendance center do we have sufficient numbers that require us by law to provide instruction in their native language. So a good plan that would be encompassing of strategies as have been discussed this evening would be more of a sheltered English instruction protocol that we would use for those other students.
She said that much better than I would.
That was a great explanation. And so I would echo that a great program like dual language for the Spanish speaking population.
Easy program for
Absolutely correct.
Anything else on that area?
The reason I said no is because, again, we know there are, I think the number was 63 different languages that are spoken in 308, and while not all of those students require additional help and support, I kind of look at this as, and I don't want to totally echo what Mr. O'Neill said, but, you know, whether it's one program, whether it's multiple programs, we want to educate every child to the maximum of their ability. And this is where board work kind of has to stop, and the board says to the administration and the paid employees of the district who are experts, it's broken, fix it. And I don't want to limit what your response is. I want you to come back with your best professional opinion on what the future looks like. And if it includes dual language, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But let's not take something off the table too soon.
Anyone else?
I think we're hung up on the title. The real problem is that EL has failed to educate those students that are a very low performing group, and I think our board and our administration all recognize that, and we all want to raise that achievement level. And as I said before, and I agree with everything Brent said, I don't want to limit you to saying, well, everything has to fall under one umbrella, but clearly there's some things about the dual language program that are working, and why can't we incorporate those things into the entire model for those kids so every kid has equal access to that quality education? That's all I'm saying.
Anyone else on that question? Question number 3, do you support EL programming to be offered in homeschools Or do you have an opinion on whether or not we would have the opportunity to provide EL programming in specific schools with students being transported? So, any thoughts or any guidance or direction on that question?
So correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the state fairly clear
Well, on the
in our
minimum, yes, as
deficiencies
she
that
just
they
mentioned.
prefer that this be a homeschool?
Yes.
However, that may limit and or dictate which programs we have. If there are 3 students in one school and there are 50 in another, again, we want a working, cohesive program.
Yeah, I think I agree with him. When you're talking maybe the Spanish language, there's probably enough kids in each school that could be accommodated in each school. But if you're getting into some of the less common languages, I'm not sure if you can work with parents, where you can put all the kids, let's just say they speak German or Polish or whatever it is, and we've only got 20 kids in the whole district. It might make sense to have them at a single school, and instead of 2 or 3 in each school. But for the Spanish speaking, I would think that we hit. I think it's 20 kids. Is that the threshold that you have to? Yeah, I would think most of our school buildings would have that anyway.
Thank you.
So,
anything else on that particular question? There are areas where the district is out of compliance, and that'll be addressed immediately. One has to do with the BPAC. Do you have any guidance for the administration?
Fix it.
Needs to be restructured.
Bring it into compliance.
And we have state code to direct that, correct?
We have
There's language in code for BPAC?
policy, code, and examples.
Especially they have to sign on the funding, so we have to make sure that's compliant.
The district will take a more active role in this area. Fourth question. Do you support expanding dual language as the program to educate 900 plus EL students? That has to go to the audit issue of keeping the status quo, no lottery, etc. So when you remove all of that, then there's obviously a need to either expand or not. So the question is, do you support expanding dual language as a program to educate our 900 EL students?
I would say not in its current state.
I would say yes. The program isn't perfect. The program needs fixed, but that's what the board is going to be guiding you to do. We've had some great recommendations from the audit. We've had some recommendations from the administration since April. We've heard everything we need to hear, and all you need is the go fix what we have.
Correct.
Do what needs to be done, but fix it.
Again,
it deserves to at least be attempted to be fixed before, as someone told me, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Anyone else on that question?
Well, this just goes back to the exact same thing I said before, is that let's improve the entire 900 population for 900. I don't care if you want to call the whole program dual language. We shouldn't have a lottery, but we should have a program that serves all 900 children. And if the techniques used in dual language are working, then we should incorporate that model into the whole 900.
Anyone else? Fine. I'm so sorry.
Greg stole what I was going to say.
I agree. The program stands by itself. No.
I was just going to echo my earlier statements of I can give you ideas. I'd prefer for you to come back with your recommendations.
On the whole program, as you stated, not one program, because this program is not structured correctly.
Next question, do you support discontinuing the dual language program in favor of a different program for EL education?
No.
Well, different? Yeah, I think it's clear that that the whole program's underperforming, and I think that if you look at it in its total amount of what we're looking at, It's not just dual language or TVE or all that. It's the whole thing needs to be fixed. I don't want to get caught up on names, titles, and acronyms. We just know the thing needs to be fixed. And as I said before, if dual language techniques work, let's incorporate them for all 900 kids, and that includes this question as well.
Anyone else?
Well, it can't continue in the form it's in now because the results are not where we expect them to be. And I'll throw this in because I was thinking about this the other day. The board has tried to do, and I think has done a fairly good job at setting goals for this district. So I would challenge the administration to say that we need a goal that our non-English speaking students that require EL services be meeting or exceeding at least the state minimum, which is 60%, right? Is that an unattainable goal? It's not for me to answer. I'm looking for your answer to that question, right? But let's set a goal, right? And then the administration can say, if this is the goal of the board, this is how we get there. Does that make sense?
Incorporated in the 2020 plan, or has it been incorporated into the 2020?
We can.
I think we should set a goal of some sort for the 2020 plan and then try to achieve it.
What was your goal? Your target number?
I said state minimum, which is roughly 60%.
60%. Can I do for a question back to Ms. Ulrich?
Oh, absolutely.
With EL programming, is the average performance anywhere near that high?
Oh, no, not in its current state. No.
Is that simply district, or is that statewide, or is that a nation norm?
There are some variables that people don't realize when you're calculating performance of EL students. One of the things the state does not do is continue tracking EL students as a cohort even after they're not EL students anymore. So what's happening is you have a pot of students and the membership is constantly changing. So it looks like they never progress, they're never making gains because you're measuring literally different students every year. If the district were to actually create a cohort where we could track our students who exit from program and see what their performance is over time, even though they're not technically EL students anymore, we might get a different picture of actual performance.
That's what I was going to say. Is I'm fairly confident that Dr. Dixon can track anything we ask.
So I like the thought. Set that goal, but make sure it's comparable to what we're looking at.
It needs to be fair. It needs to be a fair goal.
Well,
unattainable.
It needs to be a fair and a reasonable goal, but there's no reason we should sit here and continue to accept the numbers that we're accepting, right?
Under
so
the current program.
if it's maybe it's not 60, but again, if 60 is the state average, then are we saying that some students are less valuable than others? And I don't think we can say that.
But not for EL program students.
But when the child graduates, I want them to be at that 60% or above, or we have failed them. Right?
With the correct leadership and resources, I think that's a goal that we need to charge them with. Absolutely.
This is a good discussion for the board to have, right? And we'll have more on these.
Hopefully the right leadership's in place.
It is.
Hi, Teresa.
Job security.
Let's not make it 8. Okay. Mr. President, those are the only questions I have for the board. Does the board have any questions for me?
So going forward, should we anticipate Mr. Lightfoot's question to you? Or is the administration going to come back to the board with some recommendations, and what would our timeline look like?
I don't find any reason why we can't have recommendations to the board by February. I have a team of people that need to take a little time off. We need to utilize the month of January. I'll work with the board leadership. Certainly would not be the first meeting in January. The latest it would be, that's 3 meetings, one in the second meeting in January, 2 in February. So the latest it would be the second meeting in February. So let's just use that timeline for tonight. Not giving a lot of thought to that. I want to check with a few other folks, but I believe that will work. And that gives us an opportunity to communicate what we might need to communicate across the district. Did I answer your question?
So you're clear on your direction to come back with an EL program that will focus on improving the education of EL students throughout the district?
Absolutely.
Is that correct from the board? Is that the correct direction? I don't want to have any misinterpretations in January or February.
No, I'm not sure exactly what it would look like as far as the actual instruction, but I'm anxious to hear how we're going to incorporate the things that we're doing well into the program, and I don't care what you call it.
Right.
Well, I think we've set a good example in our other academic audits. We have a parent component to our gifted education programming. It's not, nothing's perfect, but I hope we can get past some of the other issues that have been present and focus on a little healing and moving forward, I hope. To that end, we have parents and faculty and administration that can help Teresa. We have a good one, and we want to keep these people around. I think one thing for certain is that any program success is typically rooted in sustainability. Last thing we need to do is to run people off or discourage people. And that's inclusive of parents as well. This is a great district. It was a great district before we sat at the table. It'll be a greater district after we leave, I hope, and people will look back and say, well, we had some rough days, maybe some rough months, but in the end, everything came out right. So I'm very optimistic about it. Other questions for the soup?
I just want to make
Comments?
one comment about the groups that have been coming to the meetings that are very passionate about their programs, and I am glad to see them here, because if we, and I hope they'll continue to be as involved in the educational process for these kids. They should have been complaining a long time ago, given the results, but maybe they weren't, they didn't have access to the correct information. But there's certainly a committed group of parents, and I wish that all our parents were as adamant about getting their children educated as these guys are. So.
I have to say, we've had tough issues in the past before, and we've had significant parent group advocacy. So we get it all the time. So it's, I mean, your statement across the board is across the district.
Else. I'm just saying that they have
just want to clear that.
For a year they've been coming.
Yeah. So, okay, can I have, there's no other questions, comments? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming. Merry Christmas.